let's talk a little bit about the first phone call. Someone calls you and says, I want a mic.
Okay.
And what are the common questions you ask? Or maybe educate us a little bit what the viewer should be aware of before they give you a call.
Well, from a standpoint of trying to get a profile on what we need to do, what you want done, what you're looking for, what's important to me, and these are the top ones. I'm interested in how long they've been playing, amplified. Generally, I don't have to ask how long they've been playing. It comes out in conversation. I get a lot of good information by being a good listener, because most want to tell you some things about what they've been doing, which is perfect. That's exactly where we want to go. So it comes up in conversation more easily than like a serious business call. Well, what about this and what about that? So you find out how long they've been playing. If they've been playing amplified for a long time, that also takes a lot of it tells me that they know how to work their equipment, and that determines a lot of times how hot of an element. I use that term hot. Everyone uses it. It really is kind of a misnomer as to what we're talking about, but I think people understand. If you have, let's say, someone who's not been at it very long and they tell you what amp they're playing through, and perhaps it's a twin or something that may not be terribly suited to harp, and they're not willing to get another, sometimes I'm thinking about getting an amp too. Okay, so now what might you be thinking about getting?
Yeah.
And if they're going to get a boutique amp or something and they're seriously considering that, then there's not an issue with putting an element in there that might be overpowering for them. But if they're working with amps that are not real well suited, or perhaps they're working with a transistor amp, then you want to be careful about how strong that element is in there, or they're going to have feedback issues all the time. If they have been playing amplified for a long time, generally they have a good amp. I mean, even a guitar amp that we will use as harp amps, and so those two things matter. Also, what they want to do, because the hardest builds I've ever had are the gentlemen or people who play blues clubs on Saturday night, and they play in the church band on Sunday morning, and they don't want heavy blues sound. So you need an element that, with a relatively open cup, is still going to give them good bottom and so forth. And if you can match that criteria for them playing horn parts and so forth, yet on Saturday night when he's cupped off tight and it just drives and drives, you've done a good job. It's difficult to find elements that do both.
Yeah.
You go through quite a few to find, because, I mean, generally, when you open a cup, you want a nice clean sound anyhow. But if you're playing nothing but clubs and so forth, a little bit of an open cup and still lots of overdrive is fine.
The experience of the player.
Experience of the player.
Any other criteria?
What they're looking for. Well, I play with a heavy metal band. Really? They let a harmonica in there, huh?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, but I mean, I really push it. I'm playing through, So here we go. Do we put an element in there that certainly sounds strong, runs good through all the ranges, good bottom, smooth mids, smooth highs, but not as much output, so they can really crank their amp without dealing with the feedback.
Because they're going to be adding distortion channel, opposed to going through the clean channel like a traditional blues player would.
Yes, that's possible. I always try to, you run your equipment any way you want, but you probably don't want to be pushing those overdrive buttons. What we'll try to do is build a microphone where you get all your overdrive from your mouth and your hands and your mic.
I agree. Generally, you're always going to get your best tone profile, if we want to use a fancy term for it.
Yeah, exactly. But those are kind of fun. You get to do something different. They want them like a blood red 200S, with the stem and a graphic on the back, and those are, those aren't quite run of the mill, so they're much more fun to do from just another mic.